From our whiskey to our music. In New Orleans, every note matters. That's why every sip of Southern Comfort dances to the same vibe as our birthplace. It can be strong and smooth all at once. And no matter what, it's always authentic. So go ahead, take a big sip. Southern Comfort, the spirit of New Orleans. Discover more at southerncomfort.com.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Give me your boom. He is Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax. It's the new style.
We're Jalen and Jacoby. What do?
We get the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, if you remember last year, Derrick Rose was traded to the Utah Jazz. He was then dropped. Well, somebody tells me he remembers that because last night, D. Rose went off. A veteran with a career-high 50-point game. He was getting buckets from everywhere. Floaters, jump shots, drives, everything. And at the end of the game, he had a block, of all things, to seal the win for the Timberwolves. Jalen Rose, how does a player like Derrick Rose come out of nowhere seemingly and score 50 points in a professional basketball game?
I love to take the life lessons from situations like this. It's a story of perseverance, reinvention, humility, and also proving your naysayers wrong to the point where they have to get down on their knees, apologize to themselves because they slandered your name and assassinated your character when you had injuries, when you had personal demons, when you were missing games, when the team couldn't locate you on certain days, when you were traded from one team to another and not even given the opportunity to suit up. So when all of these things take place and then Tom Thibodeau brings you to Minnesota, it's an under-the-radar signing. Most of the people are like, well, he's just trying to bring all of his homies back that he had with the Bulls. Ha, ha, ha. He's going to bring in Joakim Noah, too. He brought in Luol Deng. What's going to happen with Jimmy Butler? Nobody's talking about Derrick Rose. Then all of a sudden he gets the opportunity to shine on a big stage, and he takes full advantage of it and now has the chance, how about this, to go and be the first player to win MVP and then have to reinvent themselves and then win six man at some point of his career. The first person to do that was Bill Walton. Now that's the conversation that he's in based on the way he played in the previous game.
It was such a good, like, you heard rumblings, and you made a good point, Jalen Rose. Like, it was kind of a joke. It was kind of a punchline. Like, oh, Thibodeau's bringing back all the old Bulls. Like, we didn't think it was real. And there was rumblings during preseason that Derrick Rose looked pretty good. And then he started talking about six man, and like, that was also kind of like a ha-ha, wink-wink thing. But now it is real. Derrick Rose might just be back. But one thing I always say about life, another Jacoby life lessons, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And Jalen Rose, I follow you on Twitter. You had a very interesting tweet about how this 50 points was scored. Please elaborate for the people.
Because I wanted to acknowledge how the beauty of basketball puts you in positions to be successful. Now, how you're able to accomplish that is based on your skill set. Taking 653 dribbles to get his 50 points versus Klay taking 56 to get his 52 points shows how vastly different their games are and also how different their situations is. Which means if you got to dribble the ball 653 times in order to get your buckets, man, you working hard for the money.
Yes.
You Donna Summer out here in the game. And so that shows me for Derrick Rose, a guy that's dealt with a lot of injuries, with stop and go, lower extremities, knees, ankles, like he's dealt with all of that. So for him to be slimmed down and have the endurance to be able to accomplish that is astounding. And somebody like Klay, who's a sniper, catch and shoot type of player that once the ball just touches his hand, he letting it go effortlessly. A lot of times it's from three-point range. So it just shows the contrast in today's game that literally takes place right in front of us.
What that stat tells me is Klay Thompson, people were giving him the opportunity to score 50 points. Derrick Rose had to go out and get his own 50 points. And you know me, Jalen, I cry easy. I'm an emotional guy. So I loved to watch the emotion from Derrick Rose when he spoke to a reporter after the game. Let's listen.
I worked my ass off, bro. I wouldn't have did this for the franchise, the organization, the fans, everybody, man. I wouldn't be able to play the way I play, man. My job is to come in, be the veteran, help guys out, and lead by example. You see me talking. It's the most I ever talked to my teammates in my whole career. So it means a lot.
One thing I found so interesting about that is he so quickly mentions the franchise and the organization. Is that just like athlete speak that you say? Because he hasn't been with the Timberwolves but a couple months. Like, why do you think he did that so emotionally so early?
Absolutely not. That's not athlete speak. And I'm friends with his trainer, Rob McClanahan. And I asked him, what was D Rose's summer like? He was like, first and foremost, it was about having him fall back in love with the game. Then it was about improving his three-point shot, improving his mid-range shot, but more importantly, accentuating one of the strengths of his game, and you saw it in that dynamic 50-point outburst. Him finishing at the hoop with both hands. In particular, underneath the rim for a player that was used to playing above the rim before he had his injury. And this was not normal athlete speak. Here's why. Because there were a lot of people that thought he was done. And it ain't just fans. It ain't just media. It's organizations, general managers that when his name came across the radar, it's like, nah, we good.
Nope.
And he knows that. He's not playing he's not playing on a big contract.
No, he's making like $2 million.
Close to the veterans minimum.
Yeah.
Okay? I remember when he was in Cleveland, he said, hey, I'm going to play here for a year and try to get a big deal. I remember when he said, I want to find ways to be healthy later on in life. He was criticized for all of those things. He had to reinvent himself as a player that plays below the rim, poured his emotions out for the fans, for the media. I think it was a terrific moment in basketball, and I appreciated how all the current and former players embraced him like family and celebrated this terrific achievement.
Well, obviously you cannot talk about the Timberwolves without talking about Jimmy Butler and all the drama that surrounds him. One of the reasons Derrick Rose was able to score 50 points was because Jimmy Butler was not on the floor. Why was Jimmy Butler not on the floor? Rest. Here's what he had to say to Rachel Nichols. Quote, it's because my body is hurting. I don't want to go out there and risk injury. What are they going to say when I show up on Friday and hoop? It will all go back to normal until they see me arguing with my dog, and then people will say I named my dog Cat so I can yell at him. There's a lot to talk about there. But first, Jalen Rose, what do you think about Jimmy Butler amidst all this resting because he doesn't want to risk injury?
So we've seen this dynamic play out in the NFL with Le'Veon Bell, but for me it's under a different premise. Because in football, you don't necessarily have guaranteed contracts, and as a 26-year-old running back, he sees his shelf life and his mortality right in front of him. He's established himself as one of the best backs in the game, and he's trying to make sure he protects his usage so he can invest in his long-term financial and productivity on the field. For Jimmy Butler, this is now going to start to border the line of what's in a team dynamic considered selfish or not. Because everybody's going to have body soreness. And you know I hate when healthy players miss games already. And yes, basketball is a game where you risk injury. But it's not to the severity of like it is in football. And so for a guy who people like myself made sure we went on wax and said, we know that he's not going to dog it. He's going to show up and play hard regardless of his contractual situation and be a professional until they trade him. I hope that narrative does not change with him missing games due to rest if and when he's not traded in the near future.
Jalen Rose, the game on Friday is against the Warriors, one of the most popular teams on the planet, the best team on the planet, and it's also on ESPN, a national network. Do you think Jimmy Butler takes this into consideration when he picks and chooses what game he plays?
Well, you just answered your own question. When you're picking and choosing, you're going to select the options that maximize your visibility, and also that's going to make your points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals loud because you're playing against the best team in basketball versus a team on a Wednesday night against Utah that doesn't have the same level of visibility until Derrick Rose erupts for 50 points.
Well, Jalen, I remember last week we had Woj walking around the Seaport office talking about how the Rockets had offered 4 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler. If you look at the Rockets' record, they're terrible. They need a change. And if you look at this situation, it just seems like there's a natural fit here for the Rockets to put together a package to trade for Jimmy Butler. Do you think the Rockets are the most likely destination for Butler?
I like Miami or I like the Rockets for different reasons. Miami understands that it's contractually strapped based on some of the players that it's already signed, and they wouldn't necessarily be able to sign him outright on the free agent market. So it's important for them to acquire him that way. For Houston, their goal is to beat the Golden State Warriors right now. And so the only way you do that after having an MVP in James Harden, who's injured right now, Chris Paul, who you just gave a big-time deal to over the next handful of years, you just played Clint Capella as well. In order for you to go for it, you need another guy. And Jimmy Butler is a player that fits that bill. Now, when you look at the first-round picks, if you're Houston and you have all of those guys in uniform, you figure that those picks are going to be between 25 and 30, late first-round picks. This is why Minnesota hasn't pulled the trigger on the deal yet. They're probably going to be like, you got to toss in Eric Gordon. You got to sweeten the pot a little bit because I can't necessarily change my franchise betting on picks from 25 to 30. This isn't like the Boston Celtics and the Nets where they were trading agent Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and then turning those picks into lottery picks because the Nets have been bad for so many years. The Houston Rockets won't be bad, so this is why there's been a stalemate between those two teams so far.
Jalen Rose, it's time for my favorite segment, What's Your Number? Jalen Rose, you and I both used to mow lawns for money. And there's 3 teenagers in Florida that were mowing lawns for money. They had a big property, they were mowing lawns. They were mowing the lawns, and they noticed that there was a 30-foot deep well on the property where they were mowing the lawns. So what did they decide to do with that 30-foot deep well? One of them decided to climb down it. Why did they climb down it? Bragging rights. Jalen Rose, what is your number to get to the bottom of a 30-foot well?
I'm not doing anything that resembles one bad choice, 1 inch, 1 foot that could possibly cause fatality in my life.
Jalen, do you understand the concept of the segment? What is your number? What is your number?
I do. I'm thinking it out loud as I reason about what you're asking me to do. So for me, this is like going to the end of a ledge. For me, it's almost like bungee jumping. For me, I'm thinking like 30-foot well. I was just walking down the street in broad daylight and had 0 phone service. So I know if I'm in a 30-foot well, I'm not going to be able to get anything accomplished down there. So that number got to be... I'm worried about being able to communicate with the world. What if something happens to me and I'm 30 feet below sea level? I would say...
Give me the number.
15 million.
You are too rich. You know what? I don't even like this segment anymore because you're so rich you just throw these insane numbers out. My number's about $1,500. Like, for $1,500, I'll climb to the bottom of the well. I know I'm going to get out. I'm not going to stay there forever. $1,500, I'll climb to the bottom of a 30-foot well. No problem. I need cash, though, after taxes.
So we have this on wax, okay? We have this on wax. We're going to get this $1,500 and make this happen.
Putting it on wax.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure? Low coolant? Time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube, leave worry behind.
Jalen Rose, last week, when I heard that LeBron James production company was potentially working on a reboot of the Friday the 13th franchise, I had one piece of advice for them. Look, I gave it away for free. They don't have to pay me. I said that what you do is this. LeBron James wants to be a movie star. However, LeBron James is not that good of an actor. You're working on Friday the 13th. What do? You have LeBron James be Jason Voorhees. The first black Jason Voorhees. Do you know what LeBron James is really good at? Being big and scary. And then he is last night as Jason Voorhees. Big and scary. You need to be Jason Voorhees in the movie, LeBron. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for paying attention. You don't have to pay me, but it would be nice if you gave me some sort of a check. Jalen Rose, do you think LeBron James will actually play Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th as I suggested?
I love your vision. I appreciate your forecast and your wisdom. You were exactly right. LeBron James not only embodied the character on Halloween, but if and when they're able to secure the franchise, we can see him playing Jason Voorhees for years to come. And for those who haven't really been exposed to old school scary movies, people like Michael Myers and Halloween, and people like Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street, for me, Jason was the GOAT. He was my absolute favorite. Freddy had more personality, but Jason didn't play no games. So if they're able to do this, along with all of the other projects they're getting accomplished, he may or may not win a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers. How about this? I'll say LeBron James wins an Oscar before he wins a championship. That's how well his production company is doing.
I'm sorry. I don't think my earpiece is working. What'd you say, Jalen? What'd you say?
As a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, and in the future, LeBron James has a better chance to win an Oscar than an NBA championship.
Okay. That is easily one of the weirdest things you've ever said in this program, and we've been doing this for 8 years. Moving on, the LeBron James and the Lakers had an actual basketball game last night against the Mavs, and they were cruising to an easy victory, and then the Mavs had a furious comeback. Luka Doncic with the weird left floater there, and then for no reason, Wesley Matthews fouls LeBron James with 2 seconds left in a tie game. That made absolutely no sense. LeBron missed the first, made the second, and the Lakers snuck off with a win. This was a must-win game for the Lakers. Jalen Rose, do you think they can ride this momentum and get a couple wins moving forward? They play the Blazers next.
Really bad decision by a veteran and Matthews right there. But Kuzma went to the line and made one or two late. LeBron also made one or two late. This is why the Lakers in particular have struggled in games decided by 5 points or less, and also weren't able to attain that lead that they were able to secure initially, because while they're terrific in getting fast break points and they're transitioning those into points in the paint, a lot of those, they're not able to get stops in particular when they need to. So it's great to get that home win, but I'm pretty sure as a coaching staff and LeBron James in particular, they left that game talking about all of the things they need to do better if they're going to turn around their record so far.
Absolutely. Well, I'm shocked at this, and I was disappointed and disgusted at some of the decisions that Luke Walton made. My guy Lance only played 10 minutes. How are you going to give Lance Stevenson, future MVP, 10 minutes of burn in a basketball game? However, during those 10 minutes, he was allowed to do this. Jalen, let's watch Lance here. Okay. Oh, look at that. A little, dance. Make him dance, Lance. Look at that. And then, of course, there's this play. Lance Stevenson with a perfect pass to LeBron James. LeBron James, he dogged it on that one. I don't know why LeBron didn't catch that and dunk it. Like, honestly, that was a perfect pass from Lance. LeBron James it didn't show any effort, didn't even try to catch it. It was right there for him to dunk. I don't know why LeBron didn't catch that alley-oop. I don't know why he's doing this to his guy Lance. I think he's getting jealous about Lance's performance and Lance being clearly the leader of the team, so he didn't want to catch that alley-oop because he didn't want Lance to get the highlight. Is that true?
So for everybody that truly supports this fine program, you know that if Jacoby is in the shower and you look at his backside, it's a tattoo that says Lance. Okay. Since the 8th grader and born ready, like when LeBron got a chance to go to training camp, in Jacoby's head, it was a great opportunity for him to learn what it's like to play with the future MVP and Lance. So for all of you people that now are celebrating Lance, I have to make sure that y'all know David Jacoby is the capo of the Lance fan club. And so he genuinely loves when Lance shoots it over the backboard on the left side, Or when he makes a three from the right corner and he does the guitar dance. And
How
you know what else?
Give him 10
he
minutes?
truly believes that it was LeBron's fault that he didn't catch that terrible lob. He truly believes that Lance deserved over 10 minutes making decisions like that on the floor in a close game. It's hit or miss, David.
I've lost complete control of the show to the point where now the production staff has created a segment just to make fun of me, and that segment is called News to Me. They made this segment because I pitch topics for the show, and they say, oh, that's old, and I say, I want to talk about it anyway. What I want to talk about is this. Austin Rivers of the Washington Wizards has his own podcast on The Uninterrupted. Shouts Uninterrupted and everybody there, Spring Hill.
Shout out.
Austin Rivers, welcome to the podcast game. And on the podcast, he made a huge mistake. Let's listen to Austin.
It was crazy. We're all having babies. Brad just had a baby. I have a baby. John has a baby due in a couple months. Jeff Green just had a baby. So my girl's actually excited that she has people she can relate to.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. He's just celebrating all of his teammates having babies and the ability for his girl to have other women with babies the same age and experience that together. It's so helpful when you have children. There's only one problem with that, Austin. John Wall didn't tell anybody that he was having a baby. You went on a podcast and told the entire world that John Wall was having a baby. Jalen, what does John Wall say to Austin when he finds out that Austin outed him on the podcast?
Wow, this is when keeping it honest goes wrong. And for Austin, his first year with the team, joining a locker room that's fractured right now, a team that's struggling to meet expectations, can't get stops, isn't getting wins, looks like it's headed to be a dumpster fire if they don't turn it around fast. Dwight Howard, their big offseason acquisition, along with Rivers, has yet to play. It's really a dire time for that talented
They
roster.
don't need these problems.
All-star
They don't need these
backcourt
problems.
and Beal and Wall. They don't need any more things to talk about other than their performance on the floor. But you know this. You get into that podcast environment, you take off your shoes and
forget
socks,
about the
you
mics.
get relaxed,
People forget
you sit there
about
for
the
3
microphones.
hours.
People get real
Before
comfy
you
on
know
the
it,
podcast.
you forget that those mics are actually broadcasting into the atmosphere.
It's happened to me and you hundreds of times. Jalen Rose. Yes, Derrick Rose had 50 points. So no one's talking about the fact that Wardell Stephen Curry had 37 points last night. A quiet, cool 37 as the Warriors beat the Pelicans. Steph Curry was 7 for 11 from 3. He's made 5 3-pointers in 8 of the 9 games this season. Steph Curry is so good and so dominant that we barely even discuss a 37-point performance. What do you make of Wardell Stephen Curry's play so far this season?
He's the most versatile shooter, in particular from range, that the game has ever seen. And the reason why I made that distinction is when you talk about people shooting, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can do it on post moves. You can do it in the paint. You can do it from mid-range. Do it from 3. He's the only person in the history of the game, if he's 75 feet away and he shoots the ball as the clock wanes, we anticipate it going in. Like, he's that good. He has the runners. He has the floaters. He can come off screens. He can do it off the ball. He can do it on the ball. And it's effortless.
Yep.
Okay, it's like the flick of the wrist. Look at the flick of the wrist. Look at the flick of the wrist. Look at the flick of the wrist. Like, he's averaging 37. Okay? Like, forget 40 from 3. He's shooting over 50 from 3. Over
crazy.
50
it's crazy.
From the field.
That doesn't even make sense to me. Like, my brain can't compute that.
John Blaze.
So everyone's talking about Kevin Durant and whether or not he's going to stay or
he has a killer
he's going to go.
instinct that's just underrated.
Everyone's talking about Kevin Durant, whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to go. And Draymond Green, as he always does, addressed it head on. And here's what he had to say. When that decision comes up, I think we'll have won 3 championships. That's my recruiting. 3 out of 3. Jalen Rose, is that presumptuous from Draymond Green? He just straight up said it on wax, like, we're going to have 3 championships in a row. Already 9 games into the season. What do you think about Draymond Green basically counting this year as a championship already?
You're doing the media thing. He clearly says, I think we'll have 3 championships, but we'll gloss over that part and talk about the 3 for 3 part. They have a legitimate chance to do so. And it's not only about the championships because, of course, everybody that's competitive wants to do what they can to be the best of the best. They have fun, and their best players' skill sets complement one another. Like, Steph is a knockdown shooter that's averaging over 35 that doesn't have to dominate the ball. Klay's a guy that can score over 50, has scored 60 in very limited dribbles. Okay, one of also the best catch-and-shoot players that the game has seen. Oh, and by the way, you want pure score? A guy that's led the league 4 times in getting buckets? Just look at Kevin Durant, the easy money sniper. Okay, so like when you have that level of weaponry, and then they have the audacity to sign in the offseason.
I know.
Boogie!
I can't wait till Boogie comes out. But
just
here's
think
the thing,
about
Jalen.
that. He will be playing basketball for them this year. That is crazy.
And here's the thing that you haven't mentioned is the person that holds it all together is Draymond Green. Now, he's not averaging that many points, but he is averaging a lot of assists. And one thing you cannot compute in a box score is what he does on defense. And what he does on defense affects the game so much. He is, in my opinion, the best defensive player in basketball. And here's the reason why that is very important. Because Draymond Green wants some money. And everyone talks about whether or not Kevin Durant's going to stay or whether or not Klay is going to stay. Draymond Green has the option, has the potential to get a $235 million deal in 2020 if he wins Defensive Player of the Year. He was asked about that, and here's what he had to say. Quote, I need that bad, real bad. I made second team all defense last year. I'm pissed about that still. I'll be pissed until I write that. So that's a serious goal of mine this year, and I'm on it every night. Jalen Rose. Not only is Draymond Green being Defensive Player of the Year important to him, I think he deserves it. When he said, name 5 players in the league that are better defenders than me, it's impossible. You cannot do it and be honest with yourself. Just look, this is all from last night. I think Draymond Green is the best player in basketball. I think he deserves a Supermax contract. I think that he is campaigning for this award and he should win it. Do you think he is the best defensive player in basketball?
I think there are a couple of people that clearly separate themselves. Draymond, Kawhi, and Anthony Davis. And then there's a couple of other guys in Jimmy Butler and Klay Thompson. To me, that's like a stout 5 right off the top of my head. And I'm pretty sure you can tell me who I'm missing because I'm trying to do this freestyle.
Of course.
So now what makes all of those guys different? Draymond Green is unique because as a guy that's primarily defending players closer to the basket, he doesn't have the highlight level of rejections.
Yep.
He doesn't have like the loud plays where he gets a steal, he gets a block, he goes coast to coast, and then somebody throws him a lob. Or he goes down and he pulls up a walk-up 3 without any passes.
So Jalen,
or he goes right down the lane and he does a 2-hand dunk on somebody.
You're making a great point.
So since his defense isn't loud, it gets overlooked.
But that doesn't mean it's not quantifiable because we're in 2018 and they kind of count everything as a stat. He leads the league. He's tied with Jimmy Butler in deflections and loose balls recovered. Also, leads the league in contested three-pointers. We're talking about Draymond Green. He's not a guard. Leads the league in contested three-pointers. Also, leads the league in box-outs. They say these things don't show up in the box score, but in 2018, you can quantify these things, which is one of the reasons that I think that Draymond Green is the best defender in the game and will win Defensive Player of the Year. And I'll continue to campaign for him to do so because I want him to get his money because I love Draymond Green.
Absolutely. And also, so very uniquely offensive. Now you gave me examples that I can now use, hopefully, to unpack it for some of the people that don't realize his impact. How unique James Harden is as a player that could lead the league in three-pointers made and attempted, as well as free throws. Normally, that's 2 different people. This is what you just said about Draymond Green. Normally, the guys that gets box outs isn't the guy that's contesting at the 3 line.
Exactly. That's 24 feet away from each other. Yep.
So that's how unique both of those guys are.
When tracking the domestic dust bunny, you commonly find them hiding under wardrobes next to lost socks. Don't move too suddenly or they'll scurry off. What's utterly fascinating about the dust bunny is that although they are not actually sentient creatures, when they hear that Geico not only saves people money, but also has a 97% customer satisfaction rating, it's obvious to them you should switch. Because yes, switching to Geico is a no-brainer. Oh no, it's the dust bunny's only natural predator. Run along, dust bunnies, run along.
Jalen Rose, we live in a very complicated society. There's just so much going on, and we try to explore the nuances and the differences in what's going on in our society with a segment that we like to call Cultural or Regional. We went out to Twitter, and we asked people to ask us cultural or regional questions, and James had this question. Cultural or regional, dressing your pets up in Halloween costumes? Cultural or regional, Jalen?
I would definitely say watching Derrick Rose and Klay Thompson go get 50 is different paths, like cultural or regional. Watching people dress up in Halloween costumes and trick or treat is cultural or regional. Dressing up your pets is definitely cultural in any way, shape, or form. It's one thing for your pet to be participating in Halloween. The people that dress up their animals in costumes are the ones that kiss them in the face, the ones that sleep in the bed, the ones that get treated better than human beings. This is a cultural phenomenon, in my opinion.
Honestly, when I started this, I was going to say universal, but listening to you, I think you're absolutely right. It's cultural. Moving on to the next one. This one is interesting because sometimes we get these questions. I'm like, what? Nance wants to know, noodles in your chili, cultural or regional? Does anybody put noodles in chili? I've never seen a noodle in chili before. This has to be regional in some region of the country that I have not been to because I've been everywhere and I've never seen a noodle in a chili. Jalen Rose, noodles and chili, cultural or regional? I agree. I played for half of the teams in the NBA, and I've been to a couple of places where I needed a passport. I've never seen this happen. So I would say this is original. I think it might be like a Cincinnati thing. When I think chili, like that's like their signature food is Cincinnati. So maybe this is like a Cincinnati thing. Who knows? Moving on to the next question, cultural or regional. Let's take a look. This one is from GBZ. Greg from Chicago wants to know, talking on your cell phone in public with the speakerphone on, cultural or regional? I'm going to take this one, Jalen Rose. So let me take everybody behind the curtain on how Jalen Rose talks on the phone, okay? He's got a phone, just like everybody else, but instead of talking on the phone like this, Jalen Rose talks on the phone like this, and then listens, and then talks, and then listens, and will use speakerphone in public. So this, I'm going to say, is cultural. Jalen, I don't know if you know how phones work. Because you can just hold it in one place. You do not need to reposition to speak and then reposition to listen. This is definitely cultural. It's exactly right what you said about calling me out. This is why I don't like to do phone interviews, because I listen back to them and they sound so muffled. As it relates to the speakerphone, not only will people of my origin, since I'm calling this cultural, talk on a speakerphone in public, we'll drive down the street and allow you to hear it through the speakers in the car. Yes. I've definitely listened to, yes. That like is it's music. Yeah, it's like you don't have to turn the volume up to 100 when you're just on the phone. It's one thing if you're listening to the latest song, but when you're on the phone, you can turn the volume down. We don't need to hear it. It's just a conversation. It's not that interesting. It's not the new Drake. It's you talking to your cousin. Moving on to the next question from cultural or regional. Brian wants to know, wearing an NBA jersey during pickup games, cultural or regional? I don't understand this because I think it's a chafing problem. I would never wear an NBA jersey during a pickup game. I don't know if it's cultural or regional. What do you think, Jalen? This is actually universal because it's different levels of basketball support that happen that unify people in athletics, which is why I appreciate it. Think about people from different countries, people from different cities, states, origins, races, creeds, religions, all fall in love with the game of basketball. So when you're on the floor, whether it's at a park, a YMCA, or playing in the backyard, playing at a night league, wherever you're playing, a summer league, it don't matter. You will see a lot of different people wearing jerseys. And so I would say that's universal. Next cultural or regional question is an interesting one. It is from 313 to Vegas. Using Airbnb, cultural or regional? I think Airbnb might be a cultural phenomenon because I've used Airbnb before. I tried to get Jalen to use Airbnb. It took me about an hour and a half to explain to him what it was. I tried to get the app on his phone. It didn't work. I think both renting Airbnb and Airbnb being your particular place where you live, both cultural, and more people that look like me use it than people that look like you. Do you agree?
1,000% cultural. Your explanation is exactly right. And let me tell you why that is. If I'm going to stay somewhere, I want at least to feel like the sheets are clean. I want to feel like the silverware is clean, the pots and pans are clean, the dishes are clean. It's hard to get that feeling when you're eating off of the plates and sleeping in the bed of somebody you don't know. Now, I'm not saying in theory that can't be cleaner than a hotel, because if you don't know, they don't clean that big sheet. Just so you know, when you ever at a hotel, that sheet's been there for 365 days. Just so you know, the big one. That probably has whatever inside of it. Let it be known. But with that being said, that's why I don't use Airbnb. I would much rather just get a hotel where I can order room service and not have to cook. I can pretty much not have to clean up after myself. What about using somebody else's towels? So based on that, it's cultural why you've used it multiple times and I've never tried to.
So you would rather stay at the place where the sheet has been there for 365 days. Is that what you're trying to say, Mr. Rose?
You just got to take the big heavy one off.
Oh, that was off?
You got to take the big heavy one off.
Okay.
Throw it right in the closet.
That's what you do when you're an insane person. One more cultural regional question. This one is from Anthony. Bringing your kid into the office when it's not bring your kid to work day, cultural, regional, or universal? First of all, as someone who has 4,000 children, I will say this. I'm not bringing my child to work. Do you know why? I go to work to get away from my kids. For real. I would come here if they didn't pay me to come here. I come to work to get away from my kids. Bringing your kids to work doesn't even make any sense. Why would you bring your kid to work?
I would definitely say that this is not necessarily cultural, regional, or universal. It's powerful.
Oh.
Because in certain dynamics, it gives you unique opportunity to spend time with your son or daughter because everybody's family dynamic is different. Everybody doesn't live with their kids 24/7, 365 like you. Everybody's not home and doesn't necessarily travel for their jobs like you do. Everybody doesn't necessarily live with the person they have kids with like you do. So therefore, it's really important if you want to spend that quality time to do it while you're getting paid. And we like people that listen to our podcast when they're at work. So of course we like the same people to get paid at work and spend time with their son or daughter. A+ word. I support this.
I pay other people to spend time with my son and daughters. The Bucks travel to Boston to play the Celtics. Can the Celtics hand the Bucks their first loss of the season? Don't forget, Kyrie got a haircut.
I think they can. I think they will. But it's not because the Bucks aren't legitimately proving themselves to me to have the potential to be the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I'm not going to put them ahead of Philly just yet. And obviously, Toronto and Boston have distinguished themselves for me. But this is a big step for a Milwaukee team. They got a chance to face them in the playoffs last year. And I remember doing the distinction of best team versus best player. Yep. And so can the Greek Freak be as dominant as he needs to be to still find a way to get a win on the road? I can't wait to see.
I have put them above Philly in the Eastern Conference. But, Jalen, that doesn't matter. Do you know what matters? This news. Jalen Rose, I know you travel a lot. And when you fly on planes, you fall asleep. But before you fall asleep, before the plane takes off, you look out the window and you see those guys with the baggage handlers putting your baggage on the little conveyor belt thing that goes into the plane. And you're always looking for your bag, but you never see your bag. Well, here's what happened. One of those gentlemen working in Kansas City was just loading bags on a plane, and he woke up in Chicago. When police found him in Chicago, he admitted that he was intoxicated in Kansas City when he got on the plane and fell asleep and then woke up in Chicago. Are you surprised to hear that some of those baggage handlers are having a few too many adult beverages?
I am not surprised because they have to function in different weather. You in the Midwest or the East Coast, it's freezing out there. You better have a hot toddy or something to get you through. Some of them work early mornings, long shifts, late nights, red eyes. Of course, everybody needs some sort of pick-me-up. So I'm not mad at them at all. And as much as I travel, 99.9% of the time, I have zero issues with my luggage.
Oh, so here, yes, I don't have very many issues with my luggage, but I will say this is never, ever is it a good idea to drink at work. Ever. Now it's time for What's Your Number? Jalen Rose, this edition of What's Your Number is a little different. What's your number to watch every single second of tonight's 49ers-Raiders game?
What's my number to watch every minute of that game? 1 million.
Now, come on. You've never said less than 1 million. You would watch, I mean, like, you really don't respect this concept.
Okay. All right. To be honest with you, 100,000. 100,000.
I would do it for $1,000.
100,000.
I would do it for $400. No problem. I'll watch that game. I might doze off at the end.
And here's what I do.
I have a lot of kids.
I'll make some lemon pepper wings. I'll buy some hot sake. I throw it in the microwave. I'll make some homemade popcorn, and I'll sit back and enjoy.
I guarantee you'll fall asleep. I guarantee you fall asleep in the third quarter. I guarantee you fall asleep in the third quarter. There's no question you stay up through the whole thing. I know you. You have to be up in the morning. I know you so well. You'd be asleep so fast. You would lose that money.
For $100,000, I'll be doing snow angels in no Harriet Tubman 20s.
We always say we give the people what they want, and now we need something from the people. I've done some research on this, but I want to hear from the people. We got to take Kanye out the intro. I know he tried to walk back some things, but he's getting removed from the intro. So now, I want you to tweet at Jalen Rose, at D Jacoby, at Jalen and Jacoby, who we should replace Kanye with in the intro. It's got to be a Pop the Trunk
mention. Hit the brakes.
It's got to fit.
Hit the brakes. I love where you're going, my brother.
But
I love where you're going.
But I know you. I know you. But
I love where you're going. There is no but. And since I know where you're going, and everything we do on this program is a collaborative effort, there was a couple of in the trunk mentions initially because I was hoping that it was going to be longer that were not used. And as those words came out of your mouth, I thought about one that we can use and we can swap Kanye out with right now if you want, along with taking the pulse of the people. So one of the originators of that term, so near and dear to my heart, his name is Todd Shaw. And he once said in a record, while you're in the studio, I'm in the trunk. I'm in the trunk beating down the block. I think that right there is what you can replace Kanye with.
Okay. And you know what? I think we actually I'm sure Reggie doesn't remember. I barely remember. You definitely don't remember. We had another version of the intro earlier. This is version 2 of the intro, to be honest with you. Yep. But, Reggie, I don't mean to give you work, but I don't want to hear Kanye tomorrow. I'm sorry, Kanye. I love your albums. I love your music. Just can't rock with you right now. But I don't want to hear it tomorrow. So now Reggie's not going to be able to do it. You can't make that edit, Reg? Reggie, I know how to use Audition. I know how to do it. I know how to make the edit. I don't know why you can't make the edit. I'll do it. Don't worry, Reg. Just send me the file. Send me the file, Reg. Send me the file. I'll make the edit. I'll handle it. I'm sorry, Reg. I didn't mean to put 5 minutes more work in your day.
You know, one of the undercurrents of this program that I'm starting to love is we need to do something that features Jacoby and Reg bickering.
Yeah, because that's part of what's happening now.
I love
me
it.
and Reg, now that I don't see Reg anymore, we got a contentious relationship. Me and Reg going back and forth now a lot. And so Reggie's in my ear. Here's the thing I want to know, everyone listening to this podcast, I want everyone to know that listening to this podcast is half the time I'm talking is because Reggie's in my ear. That's really what's happening. Right now, while I'm speaking, Reggie's yelling in my ear. That's what happens. And everybody's like, I've seen a couple tweets. I've seen like 3 or 4 tweets that's like, it's like, give Reggie a microphone. Give Reggie a microphone. If we gave Reggie a microphone, we'd have to change the name of the show. It would be Reggie Hooks featuring Jalen and Jacoby. That's what it would be called. For real. It'd be Reggie Hooks and Friends. Reggie Hooks and Friends is what this show would be called if we gave Reggie a microphone. For real. Reggie got a soundboard. He don't need a microphone. But just so you guys know, whenever I stammer over a word or whenever I say something dumb, it's because Reggie's talking nonsense in my ear. That's what's going on for real behind the curtains. Anyone's been to a live show, they've met Reg, they know Reg got a big personality. And it's actually Reggie Noble too, it's not Reggie Hooks. The real Red Man is our producer for the podcast. So
this
Reggie,
is my favorite.
Reggie, I'm sorry to give you so much work, Reg, but maybe if perhaps you listen to a couple voicemails, you might have one from the people for the show today. If you did that, could you please just play one right now?
Hey, Jalen.
Wow.
Hey, Jacoby. Shout out, Reg. This is Brian from Charlotte, North Carolina. I just wanted to say, I've been trying to get on this show for 3 years. 3 years I've been trying to get on this show. I was 20 when I started trying to get on this show when I started listening. I'm 23. I'm married now. I didn't even have a girlfriend when I started listening to this show. And I still can't get on it. I call this voicemail every single day and hear Jacoby say, don't curse, don't play music. I never do that. I have good questions and nobody ever plays my voicemail. Is this Reggie's fault? Who do I blame? I know everything about this show. I know Jacoby's a Die-Easy fan. Reggie's a huge New York fan. I know about Matthias. I know about Big Crown. I know our executive producers. I know about the mad caller. But he ain't as mad as me. Come on, man. Get me on the show. Stop moving boss move. Call in voicemail to vent about your frustrations. Shout out.
Let me tell you something. That's Reggie's fault. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Reggie listens to like 3 voicemails. We get 50 voicemails a day. Reggie listens to the first 3 and just plays whatever. And they go on for 45 seconds. And me and Jalen always say like, hey, maybe you should cut these down a little bit so we can just get back to our conversation. But no, never edited, never cut down. Poor Brian. Brian didn't have a girlfriend. Brian didn't have a girlfriend when he started listening to this show. He started calling the show every day. He didn't even have a girlfriend. Now Brian is married. He got engaged. He was a fiance. Now he's married. They planned a wedding. They had a wedding. And now he's finally on the show. And he didn't even have a good question. He's just so mad about not being on the show. Because Reggie, what percentage, no, dead ass, Reggie, what percentage of the voicemails do you listen to? Say it in my ear. Oh, he's mad. He's mad. He's mad now. Now he's mad. What percentage of the voicemails do you listen? He says 100%. He says 100%. Jalen Rose, do you believe that Reggie listens to 100% of the voicemails? Do you believe it? Do you believe it? I'm asking you a question, Jalen. Jalen's laughing. I'm asking you a question. Do you believe that Reggie listens to 100% of the voicemails? Do you believe it? Do you believe it?
I feel like a great version of Don King right now. I feel like a great version of Bob Arum right now. This is amazing. This is terrific. This is wonderful. This is an underbelly of this program that takes place for private consumption every day that I appreciate is playing out on wax. And I can't remember the last time I laughed this hard. So I got to say a couple of things. Just to keep it in the sports context. I don't know if it's because Reggie lives in L.A. and represents the Yankees and Jacoby's Red Sox won it this year. I don't know if that dynamic plays in their relationship. I don't know if the dynamics of the show went from being the Rose Report to Jalen and Jacoby, and we
hate the Rose Report
groups.
Back. It was never called the Rose Report. You called it the Rose Report. It was never called the Rose Report. It was the Jalen Rose podcast.
You look back at the footage. You look back at the fonts. You look back at the YouTubes. I didn't put none of that up there.
I did. I was producing it. It was called
my
the Jalen Rose
producer
Podcast.
name. You know what my producer's name was?
What?
David Jacoby.
I know.
That was my producer's name. He did that. Okay. And so, like, as much as I loved Run DMC, I hated that they left out Jam Master Jay in the title. As much as I love Salt and Pepper, I hated that they left out Spinderella in the title. Okay. What I'm hearing right now is Reggie trying to be like Tupac was in Digital Underground. He trying to get on same song, do his 8 bars. He trying to go solo.
He is. Here's the thing. Well,
so of course he ain't listening to all of the voicemails.
Of course not. He's trying to get his followers up. Follow Reggie. What's your Twitter, Reggie?
Shout out.
Oh,
Big Reg 23.
What is it? Reg Hustle? What is it?
Shout out.
Reg Hustle on Instagram. Follow Reggie. He wants followers. He's mentioned it from time to time.
That
Reg
was
Hustle
available?
on Instagram. Yeah, no, I'm surprised too.
I'm surprised that wasn't
hustlers
taken.
out there. Come on, Reginald's. Reginald's ain't working that hard out there, I guess. But let me say something, Jalen Rose. You know me. You know I'm a negative person, and I make fun of everybody I work with and all of that. But I will say this: there was a time me and you had a post-show meeting at the farm at LA Live. We were sitting there. There might have been an adult beverage involved. Who knows? I don't remember. But you said, "You know what, Jacoby? You call me David. Sometimes you call me David. You know what, David? I think it's time to change the name of the show. I think it should be Jalen and Jacoby." And that meant a lot to me. I don't normally give compliments, Jalen, but I was like, you know what? This guy's a team player. He knows it's important to me. He knows he knows we're building something here. That he knows I'm committed. That we're going to work on this, and this is going to be Jalen and Jacoby moving forward. And that was something that you put your ego aside. You said this is a team thing. We're both going to be branded on this, and that meant a lot to me at the time, and it still does. And I thank you, my brother. I thank you. No jokes. I'm not going to follow it up with any insults or anything like that.
I appreciate
anything like that.
I appreciate that acknowledgement, and I was fortunate enough to have basketball in my life that taught me the value of team. So when I went to Southwestern, it wasn't like being a great 9th grader and starting on varsity. It was like joining the program, you're going to play JV and you're going to learn your way. So regardless of how talented you are, you got to be able to function with the team, or what you bring to the table is irrelevant. So I always take pride in the fact that I played with 2 guys in high school that played over 10 years in the NBA, in both Sean Leonard and Howard Isley. I take pride in when I went to college and got a chance to play for a notable group of individuals called the Fab Five. Mm-hmm. And the impact that we're fortunate to have across the country. But what I will say is also I'm smart. So if I wanted to crack a joke right here, because that's what we do on Jalen and Jacoby, how about the fact that I'm just smart? I figure if Jacoby's name is on the show, he gonna have 100% ownership. Which means if I'm aloof 95% of the time and not showing up to meetings, not returning emails, not being in studio all of the time, having people fill in for me, not wanting to do any of the work. None of the graphics, none of the picking T-shirts, none of managing
none of it.
staff.
None of the work.
None of any of that.
No emails, no meetings, no conference calls, no strategy, no development.
I'm like, I'll take it.
Reviews.
I'll take it.
Smart move. That's a boss move from Jalen Rose. Boss move. Understand the game. We always say we get the people they want. Part of that is keeping the mic away from Reg and listening to voicemails. Let's see if Reggie has another voicemail.
What up, though? This your boy, Greg McCoy from North Carolina. Shout out, Reg. Shout out, Jalen, Obi-Wan Jacoby. Quick question for you. Speaking of the Hobbits, let's talk about Michael Jordan and my Charlotte Hornets. We got the greatest player ever to play the game to be the owner. Kemba Walker's balling. Malik Monk's there. We got a couple of pieces. But what's it going to take to get the Charlotte Hornets in the playoffs and make some moves? Talk to me. Let me know why we can't get it together out here. We need that. Keep giving the people what they want. Keep getting them checks. Shout out, Reg, again. Peace.
Shout out to Greg McCoy.
Shout out.
From North Carolina. Currently, his Hornets are 4-4, and they're tied with the 76ers for 6th place in the Eastern Conference. if you look up and down the standings in the Eastern Conference, it really feels like the 8 teams in the top 8 are going to be your 8 playoff teams. The Wizards are the only team that could turn it around and break into this group of 8. But I'll say it on wax right now, Mr. Rose. The Charlotte Hornets will be in the playoffs this year. Do you agree?
So the key for me is to see who's going to be their second best player. I like what Monk brings to the table as a scorer. He's going to continue to ascend. Nicholas Batum hasn't been the same player once he got a huge contract, too inconsistent. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist can lock down on D, still a suspect shooter. But they haven't been able to strike gold with their draft picks up front. Tony Parker's playing good minutes for him. He's at an advanced stage of his career. But I need something from Zeller and Kaminsky and all of those guys that they have up front to actually develop from first-round draft pick to really productive player that I could count on to play big minutes on a nightly basis and be productive. So I think that's the case. And also,
if you're Kemba Walker and you're looking at this team and you're talking to your best friend and you're saying, look, they can offer me another $20 million and the other teams can, but I look at this roster and I look at this franchise and I look at our leadership in our front office and the way that they've drafted and the team they've put together, and I don't really see this as a contending team. I don't see this as a top 4 team in the East. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be a roadmap to success for this franchise right now as it stands.
But that's why I am here.
Oh,
because I want to put something else on wax that'll be a really good look.
Oh, I'm interested.
And we putting it on wax.
I got it at home for Kemba if he takes your advice.
Well, where's he going?
I'm just saying a theory.
Just sprinkle it out.
I'm not breaking any news. I'm not dropping a Woj bomb.
Sprinkle
I'm just creating an opportunity for some broken news.
Sprinkle me.
That's all I'm doing. Because he's contractually obligated to play for one basketball team. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't speculate where he might be next. I wouldn't do such a thing. But all I know is Madison Square Garden is waiting.
Yep.
Madison Square Garden is waiting. He started at UConn. Yep. He represents the Bronx, but he is a New Yorker.
To everyone else, it's breaking news. To Jalen and Jacoby listeners, it's broken.
All I gotta say is, don't believe me? Just watch.
Don't believe me, just watch. You will only get the broken news here on Jalen and Jacoby. When Woj tweets it, remember where you heard it first. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We have a very special guest co-host tomorrow in for Jalen Rose. Make sure you listen to that. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast. Tell ESPN how much you love Jalen and Jacoby. Write a review for us on Apple and rate the show 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. Big shout to Reg, who I got in a fight with earlier in the show. Big shout to our production staff in New York and Los Angeles and everybody that makes the show happen, and especially you, our listeners. We love you so much. We'll be back tomorrow. Why is that, KRS?
We're not done. We're not done. Got to give the people time. Give people what they want.
They're my little guys. I love them.
Speaking of the Hobbits, let's talk about LeBron James.